So More Perfect Union has found a new corruption scandal involving Joe Manchin, and this one is just as bad as the others, if not worse. So they say, new, Joe Manchin is at the center of a major public corruption scandal. A new New York Times investigation finds that for 30 years, Manchin used his official position to benefit a West Virginia power plant, all while getting a cut of its revenue. So we're going to play the video in a second, but let me read you more of the thread here. In the 1980s, Manchin buys several GOB mines, which stands for garbage of bituminous, or waste coal. As a newly elected state senator, he then gets an air pollution waiver that allows a nearby power plant in Grantown to burn GOB. Privately, Manchin makes a deal to sell his GOB to the Grant Tower power plant in exchange for a cut of the plant's revenue. After the plant opens, Manchin helps pass tax credits to subsidize power plants that burn GOB in West Virginia, another clear conflict of interest. I mean, this is just rank corruption with quid pro quos. As governor, Manchin quietly works to raise electricity rates for this plant in one of the poorest states in the country. Wow. West Virginians who rely on Grant Town Power have paid $117 million in excess fees since 2016 alone. Manchin profits from these higher rates. For decades, Manchin has sold his GOB exclusively to the Grant Town plant. He has put the health, safety, and economic security of his constituents in jeopardy, all to keep raking in profits. Grant Town is now the last plant in West Virginia to burn GOB. The climate plan in Biden's Build Back Better legislation would have put it out of business. After Manchin found out, he decided to kill the bill. Manchin continues to put his profits over our planet and our future. So, Ro Khanna, what say you? Because Ro Khanna the other day, we covered the story. I did the segment, The Downfall of Ro Khanna, where I walked through his insane comments on Build Back Better. And his whole point was, look, Manchin, like him or dislike him, is an honest actor. He means well. It's just his ideology and his philosophy. He's not doing this because he's a bad person or because he's personally corrupt. He absolutely is doing it because he's personally corrupt. There's no doubt about it. There's a mountain of evidence. And if you don't see that evidence, it's because you don't want to see that evidence. And you're allowing the backslapping and the smiles and the small talk to override the objective reality of who this guy is and what he does. So anyway, let's scroll back up here and let's play some of the video.
Joe Manchin, the senator, is also a wealthy mining executive, and he sells all his coal to this one power plant here in Granttown, West Virginia. A new investigation reveals that for 30 years, Manchin has been using his public office to benefit that plant, all while getting a cut of the plant's revenue. This arrangement has helped make him a millionaire, in part by forcing people in his own state to pay higher electricity rates. It's a classic story of conflict of interest and public corruption. This is how he did it.
Now, by the way, remember, this is a guy who raised a tremendous amount of money from not just billionaires, not just corporations, but also Republican billionaires who were paying him specifically for him to kill Build Back Better. They gave him massive donations. You had, Ken Langone, super right-wing billionaire, was singing Joe Manchin's praises on CNBC and saying, I'm going to hold a fundraiser for him. The guy is swimming in corporate money and billionaire money, or should I say oligarch money. And the whole reason is because they knew, hey, that's the guy who we need to corrupt, who we need to buy in order to defeat Build Back Better. And they did it. And he went along with it. And he went along with it because he's corrupt. He doesn't have an ideology. He doesn't have a different philosophy, just a gentleman's disagreement. No, he knows that these policies would be better for the American people and workers. And he was like, I don't want to do it. I want to do it because I'm corrupt and I want to get paid. And is on top of his daughter, of course, being a total corrupt shill for Big Pharma, where there's internal emails where she's talking about how can we price gouge people. We know all this stuff. Now, by the way, all of these things are points of leverage for Joe Biden to hang over Joe Manchin's head to say, look, if you don't play ball, if you don't vote for the bill, if you don't do the right thing, well, Merrick Garland's running wild now, and he's got some cases on you and your family, and some stuff might happen. That's all I'm saying. Now, maybe I could call the dog off if you play ball. But he doesn't do that because he's not FDR, he's not LBJ. He's a corporatist himself, so he looks at it like Ro Khanna does. Oh, just a gentleman's disagreement. Oh, we tried to convince him in the marketplace of ideas, and we couldn't do it. Oh, shucks.
A livable future.
He does not care about our future. He cares about his future as a millionaire and as an oligarch.
credit to all these people who did this protest in West Virginia of Joe Manchin. These people are doing what they can to try to get the right policies implemented, help working people, and fix the country.
You're harming more than West Virginia. You're harming the whole system.
In the 1980s, Joe Manchin owned several gob mines,
which stands for garbage of bituminous.
It is the dirtiest kind of coal you can burn.
It's really a filthy product. It's full of rock, clay, things that should never enter an incinerator.
As the New York Times uncovered, Manchin used his new position as state senator to win an air pollution waiver so the Granttown power plant near his district was allowed to burn gob, which produces high levels of the toxin sulfur dioxide. In private, Manchin then made a deal to sell his gob to Granttown in exchange for a cut of the plant's revenue. Despite the conflict of interest, Manchin then helped pass tax credits to subsidize power plants that burn gob in West Virginia.
It's poisoned our water, it's poisoned our air, it's poisoned our citizens. And Joe's made money off of it.
As governor, Manchin worked behind the scenes to push for electricity rate increases on people who relied on power from Granttown.
He's helped make sure that this plant gets rate increases to pay for electricity that actually isn't made as cheaply as other forms of energy, including wind and solar, which are also able to be made right here in West Virginia.
Ratepayers were forced to spend millions of dollars in excess fees in one of the poorest states in the country, and Manchin personally benefited from all of it.
Making money off things that you are in charge of, totally immoral, unethical, and all kinds of other words.
Since 2016 alone, Granttown has cost West Virginia utility Mon Power $117 million more than it would have to buy power from other sources.
Wow.
Later.
Wow. Hey, send this video to Rokana. Send this video to Rokana. We need to do everything we can to show him. This is who you're simping for. So he needs to know that his take on Joe Manchin is garbage. He needs to know that. Look, there are some people who are genuine ideological actors who we just have some strategic disagreements with every now and then. And then there are the utterly corrupt. Joe Manchin is utterly corrupt. He is the problem. You had to break him to make him do the right thing for the American people because he's not going to do it willingly. He's never going to do it willingly. And the fact that Biden wasn't willing to do that and wasn't willing to go to the mat means he's an accomplice. It means he's more in agreement with that corporatist philosophy. I think in his heart of hearts, Biden wanted to water down Build Back Better, and he couldn't even get that through because of Manchin and because of Sinema. And he had leverage on them. He chose not to use that leverage. He doesn't have it in him. And so we get nothing. And you get an approval rating for Biden, his lowest of like 33%. You get the Democratic Party about to be wiped out in the midterms. And it all starts here. This is where it all starts. If the Democrats passed a bill that gave people elder care, universal pre-K, free college, extended child tax credit, expanded Medicare, lower prescription drug prices, if all those things were passed, there is no way in hell that Biden's approval rating would be as low as 33%. The average is like 41 or 42%. And there's no way that the Democratic Party would be looking at a routing in the midterms from a party that's completely given up on democracy and embraces the fact that they're authoritarian and is all in on rigged election conspiracy theories and offer nothing to the American people. There's no way you'd be that far down to these people if you did your job in a half-decent way. And if they got that bill passed, it would have been done in a half-decent way. And we'd be talking about, hey, it's going to be a close election. Who knows which way it's going to go? Maybe the Democrats would even be the favorite if they got that passed. But no. Instead, they don't get it passed, and then even the people who nominally agree with the right policies cuck themselves. Oh, maybe we messed up, and maybe we should have conceded even more, even earlier on, and given Manchin everything he wanted. Even though now they've basically given the pen to Joe Manchin and he won't write a goddamn bill. He doesn't want anything through. He wanted the traditional infrastructure bill, which was largely a corporate giveaway. He got that. And now we're not getting anything for Build Back Better. And you're never going to win if the people who have the right ideas don't actually believe in them and fight for them. You're never going to win. You're just never going to win. Because we're going to experience this thing over and over. You're going to have Democratic supermajorities from now until the end of time. And even if you did have that, you wouldn't get anything through because there's going to be the few holdouts. And then you're going to have, the rotating villain theory of like, hey, one or two holdouts tanked it again. One or two holdouts tanked it again. And at some point, you're an accomplice. And you're also guilty. And so take on the fight now or just move out of the way and get out of politics. That's what I have to say.
When the EPA proposed
the first ever national mercury and air toxic standards for power plants.
Manchin, now a United States senator, sponsored legislation giving regulatory authority over coal ash to states to get around the laws.
We have this agency stepping way beyond its boundaries, further than our founding fathers ever intended.
He looks at himself in the mirror when he's looking for that inside guy, you know. As the senator, he's the one who's getting rich from the coal company, and as the owner of a coal company, he's the one who's getting the breaks from the senator.
Fast forward to today. For 3 decades, Manchin has made millions as the gob supplier to the plant, while simultaneously getting a cut of the Granttown plant's revenue. That plant is the last in West Virginia that still burns gob, and would be put out of business by the new climate legislation proposed in President Biden's Build Back Better plan. To squeeze out the last profits before a possible closure, the plant's owners tried to force the utility company to buy out its contract, which lasts till 2036. By November, it was clear that the state regulators who would have had to approve that buyout were skeptical. And a month later, Manchin announced that he was opposed to the Build Back Better bill altogether, effectively killing it.
And I cannot vote to continue with this piece of legislation. I just can't.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He doesn't care what his constituents think. He doesn't care what environmentalists think. All he cares about is making more money for himself and his crony friends.
The things that happen at this coal plant and across our state only make our water dirtier, our soil dirtier, our air dirtier. And I don't want to have to tell my grandkids or even my kids or even myself in a few years that I can't live here because it's not safe.
Somebody hurting us far too long. And we won't be silent.
All right. There you
Joe.
go. God, he's the worst, man. He's the worst. That's the face of the guy who's tanking even mild, moderate progress. He's not a moderate. He's not a centrist. That's a misnomer. He's a corporatist, and he's corrupt. That is what animates Joe Manchin and drives Joe Manchin. And this, again, credit to, I guess, New York Times originally did it. More Perfect Union gave more specifics. Credit to them for really showing the ins and outs and the details and the nuance, because it is not deniable when you look at all the facts. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.